What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for April 19th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. And I guess we'll start with the enigma that is the Phillies today. Game one, things look good. Offense continued where they left off in the Cincinnati series. Wheeler looked good, minus the rough 4-run inning he gave up. Josh Harrison went 3 for 5 with a home run, 4 RBIs. Bryson Stott extended the hit streak, putting Head Jones' record to open the season, hitting in 17 straight games. Things were looking good. And the bullpen looked good in that game, other than the starting pitching, other than Wheeler's. And he addressed it. His back tightened up. It was cold out there. Things were looking really, really, really good. And then game two happened. Bailey Falter gave up a 3-run shot in the first inning, and basically that was it. It would have been a boring game to be at. Phils were no hit to the 8th inning until Marsh hit a double. Just a complete opposite. I mean, and I feel as though, and I saw a lot on Twitter, and I said the same thing last night. Who is this team? And they're just very inconsistent with what they need to do. They're making silly errors that they did not make last year. They're not getting runs in when they have runners in scoring position. It's just a very, I don't know. So they're just searching for an identity. Hopefully help is on the way. I saw a video pregame to game one that Bryce Harper was taking batting practice off of Ranger Suarez. So those are two guys that'll be huge to get back onto the roster. I know Ranger is kind of working through that. I think he has a minor league session coming up soon. Harper, I guess, is just waiting for the clearance to be able to slide on that elbow. He's still taking field or ground balls and working in at first base. So we'll see. But I just don't know. I don't know what this team is or where they're going or what the situation is. But they play this afternoon, the rubber game against the White Sox. So hopefully they can at least take 2 out of 3 and kind of salvage something. But yeah, that as good as that first game was, the second game was just the opposite. Sixers in action tomorrow night. Still not too late to check out the Back to the Future on the Sixers-Nets series. Do a little bit more than just a prediction on the series. Go through some of the history between the two teams in only the way that Back to the Future can. So be sure to check that out. We are working on a draft day special, or draft special. I shouldn't say draft day. We're not doing a live feed yet. But working on a draft special for either later this week or next week for Back to the Future. So stay tuned for details for that. Celtics won again, so it does look like we are trending toward that epic Sixers-Celtics second round matchup, which if Giannis is out for an extended period of time, could be a preview of who's going to win the Eastern Conference. So still a lot of playoffs left, but both teams are up 2-0, looking like they're on a collision course for that second round matchup. And I did want to go into a couple more details on Jalen Hurts' contract before we get into the new this day in Philly sports history. And it's just the magic of Howie Roseman and how the cap hits. I mentioned this yesterday, but I got the specific numbers. It only counts $6 million against the cap for this year, 13.5 for next year, 21, almost 22 for 2025, and then by 2026 it's 31. And by that point, I'm sure there's going to be a couple restructures where he'll get more guaranteed money and alleviate some of that cap hit. But if you think about it, the cap is expected to go up between 20 and 30, and some reports possibly even 50 million a year for some of those years. So a $31 million hit for this year still wouldn't be that bad for your franchise quarterback. But for 3 years, 4 years from now, that's like a bargain. And I really think it's a testament to Howie and that front office on how they do things. And this year, with some of the dead cap money, it kind of hamstrung us a little bit. But because of the moves they made to get those other pieces into place, it's not like the Eagles are going to have a huge drop-off this year. So kudos to Howie. Now I want to see it in the draft, and I I'm sure that's going to be a huge topic of conversation when we do the Back to the Future draft special. But sticking with the Eagles, we're going to go back to this day in 1998, and it was day 2 of the 1998 NFL draft. And that team that year ended up being bad. It was Ray Rhodes last year. He went 3-13 and ended up going out the door. But before he left, he was able to plant some seeds. And on the second day of that draft in 1998, he had a couple guys that played a big role. He drafted Ike Reese in the 5th round that day, and then Brandon Whiting in the 4th round that day, who, while Brandon Whiting did not play on the Super Bowl team in 2004, he was the key piece to trade to get T.O. for that Super Bowl run. So everybody talks about, Ray Rhodes, and we'll get into one of the things in a minute, but his Mike Mamola and John Harris, and he missed this, he missed that. But his day 1 picks in 1998, I shouldn't say day 1, day 2 picks, he had Ike Reese and Brandon Whiting. Whiting would used to get T.O. But the day before, he picked up Trey Thomas, Jeremiah Trotter, and Allen Rossum, who Rossum didn't really do much for the Eagles, but went on to have a pretty successful Pro Bowl career with Green Bay. So say what you want about Ray. Ray had helped to plant some of the seeds for the Andy Reid, early years of the Andy Reid era. So on this day, April 19th, 1998, the Eagles drafted Ike Reese and Brandon Whiting, who were 2 key pieces to that 2004 Super Bowl run. Now, staying with the draft theme, today's Eagles draft pick spotlight, we're going to spotlight John Harris, who I mentioned. The Brooklyn native was the number 25 overall pick in the 1997 draft out of Virginia at defensive end. He was widely criticized by everybody about, why are you taking this guy so early? It's a reach, it's a stretch. And Harris himself was even surprised that he was taken that early. But Ray Rhodes was high on him. He compared him to Ed Too Tall Jones. Because he was a tall guy, like 6'7", 280. And Ray Rhodes was like, we'll put some weight on him. We'll do this. So obviously he definitely missed with that. He played 2 seasons, had 2 sacks, and that was it. But we're going to do a little bonus today because everybody talks about Ray Rhodes and John Harris and Mike Mamola and how those picks missed. But as I mentioned, in that 1998 draft with Trey Thomas, Trotter, Ike Reese, and Brandon Whiting planting some of those seeds for the Andy Reid Super Bowl run, he had a lot of hits during his time as coach. And he was one of the first to really have a big input and a big say in who was picked and who the Eagles were drafting. So some of the guys who he was responsible for drafting: Bobby Taylor, Jermaine Mayberry, Deuce Staley, N.D. Kaluk, Coy Detmer, and some guy who might be in the Hall of Fame, Brian Dawkins. So say what you want about Ray Rhodes and John Harris and Mike Mamola and how bad he missed on those first-round picks, but when it came down to it, he got a lot right. And if it wasn't for some of his picks and cleaning up Rich Kotite's mess, I think it would have – Andy Reid may not have gotten to where he was as quickly as he did. So doing a little bonus today. Our spotlight, it was on John Harris, and there wasn't much to spotlight on him, to be completely honest. The number 25 pick in 97, 2 years, 2 sacks, up in the Mount Rushmore of Eagles draft bust. But I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out because unfairly criticized Ray Rhodes. Yes, he did draft John Harris, and that was a miss. But Andy Reid had a few misses in his tenure too, but he had quite a few hits. And I want to make sure Ray Rhodes gets his props for his hits, because without some of those hits, Andy Reid might not be where he ended up as early in his career. Sure, he's a good coach. He probably would have figured it out, but he may have been one of those guys who they're like, he's still searching for this or he's still searching for that. So shout out to you and thank you, Ray Rhodes. That might be a good topic to go real in depth for a Back to the Future, but we'll save that fun for right now. So on this day, 1998, day 2 of the NFL draft, the Eagles selected Ike Reese, who was a key player on those Andy Reid teams, and Brandon Whiting, who was used to get T.O. Let's hope the Phils bounce back this afternoon. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.